In the dead of night, a lone rock climber dangles from a sheer cliff, his fingers gripping the rough surface. The wind howls around him and every muscle in his body burns with exhaustion. One wrong move and it's over. Yet, despite the danger, his heart pounds with exhilaration. He trusts his training, his instincts. He takes a deep breath and reaches for the next hold. Risk. It's the force that pushes people to the edge, sometimes literally. But what separates those who thrive under pressure from those who crumble? What makes some risks worth taking and others disastrous? Dr. Richard Harris, an expert in extreme environments and a cave diver who played a critical role in the dramatic Thai cave rescue, dives deep into these questions in the art of risk. He explores how our brains assess danger, why some people excel in high-stakes situations, and how we can train ourselves to make smarter, calculated risks in life. At its core, risk isn't just about thrill-seeking or recklessness, it's an art, one that, when mastered, can lead to extraordinary success. But first, we need to understand how our minds react to uncertainty, fear, and the unknown. So, what really happens in the brain when we face risk? And why do some people seem wired to take bold leaps while others hesitate? To answer that, Harris introduces us to the science of risk-taking, how emotions, instincts, and logic collide in moments of decision-making. He reveals that risk isn't a single trait, but a complex interplay of psychology, experience, and adaptability. Part 2. Picture this. A firefighter rushes into a burning building. Smoke fills the air, flames roar around him, and every second counts. His mind races, but he doesn't hesitate. He navigates through the danger, making split-second decisions that mean the difference between life and death. How? Experience, training, and a brain wired to assess risk in ways most people can't even comprehend. Dr. Richard Harris reveals that our brain's ability to process risk isn't random. It's shaped by biology, psychology, and experience. At the heart of it all lies a powerful battle between two forces, the rational brain and the emotional brain. The rational brain, or the prefrontal cortex, analyzes situations logically. It weighs pros and cons, calculates outcomes, and makes decisions based on facts. But there's another player, the emotional brain, driven by fear, instinct, and adrenaline. This part of the brain reacts instantly, sometimes overriding logic in moments of extreme stress. So which one wins when we take risks? That depends on the individual. Some people, like elite athletes, surgeons, and special forces operatives, train their brains to balance logic and instinct. They don't let fear paralyze them, but they also don't ignore real danger. Harris introduces a fascinating concept, calculated risk-taking. Unlike reckless decisions, calculated risks involve training, preparation, and a deep understanding of potential consequences. The best risk-takers, whether in extreme sports, business, or life, don't just go for it. They analyze, adapt, and execute with precision. But here's the catch. Our brains aren't naturally wired to take smart risks. In fact, most of us are risk-averse by default. We avoid uncertainty because our ancestors survived by playing it safe. Yet, in today's world, avoiding all risk can mean missing out on success, innovation, and growth. So how do we train ourselves to take better risks? And what separates those who thrive under pressure from those who crack? Part 3. Imagine standing on the edge of a diving platform 10 meters above the water. The crowd is silent. Your heart pounds. You've trained for this moment, but doubt creeps in. What if you miscalculate the jump? What if you land the wrong way? Fear whispers, step back. But champions, those who master risk, train their minds to silence that voice and take the leap. Dr. Richard Harris reveals that elite risk-takers, from Olympic athletes to rescue divers, share a common trait. They embrace fear without letting it control them. Fear isn't the enemy, it's a tool. When understood and managed, it sharpens focus, heightens senses, and fuels performance. The key is knowing when to trust fear and when to push past it. The science of risk, why some people take the leap. In high-stakes situations, the brain activates its fight-or-flight response. Adrenaline surges, heart rate spikes, and instincts take over. This is where two types of people emerge. Risk avoiders, those who freeze, overwhelmed by fear. Calculated risk-takers, those who control their response, assess the situation, and take action. What makes the difference? Experience and mindset. Harris introduces research showing that expert risk-takers develop risk intelligence. Their brains don't just react, they predict. A trained firefighter entering a burning building isn't just relying on courage, he's calculating structural weaknesses, smoke movement, and escape routes in milliseconds. An experienced rock climber doesn't just climb, he reads the rock, anticipates weather shifts, and makes micro-adjustments with every move. But risk intelligence isn't just for extreme professions. Anyone can train their brain to take smarter risks. It starts with shifting how we see uncertainty. Instead of viewing risk as danger, successful people see it as an opportunity to adapt, grow, and succeed. So how can we rewire our minds to become better risk takers? Part 4. A young entrepreneur stares at a blank contract. If he signs, he's all in, his savings, his reputation, his future. If he walks away, he stays safe but misses a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. His hands tremble as he picks up the pen. This is risk in its purest form, the moment where everything hangs in the balance. Dr. Richard Harris explains that the best risk takers don't just act on impulse, they prepare. Whether it's a surgeon performing a high-stakes operation or an investor betting on a startup, world-class risk takers follow a pattern. The 3 pillars of smart risk-taking knowledge. The foundation of successful risk takers never walk in blind. They gather information, study patterns, and prepare for multiple scenarios. A professional skydiver doesn't just jump. He calculates wind speeds, checks his gear, and runs through mental rehearsals before taking off. Adaptability, thriving in uncertainty. Risk is unpredictable. No matter how much you prepare, surprises will come. The best risk takers train their minds to stay calm and adjust. Think of a Formula One driver racing at 300 kilometers per hour. Split-second decisions make the difference between winning and crashing. Decisiveness, trusting the moment. Fear and hesitation kill more opportunities than failure ever will. Smart risk takers trust their training, commit to their choices, and move forward with confidence. A firefighter can't afford to second-guess in an emergency. Neither can a leader making critical business decisions. Why most people fear risk and how to overcome it. Harris dives into a fascinating truth. Our brains are wired to overestimate danger. This survival instinct kept our ancestors safe, but today it holds many people back. The fear of failure, embarrassment, or uncertainty stops them from taking chances. But here's the secret. Failure isn't the enemy. Every successful risk taker has faced setbacks. What separates them is their ability to learn, adapt, and keep going. So how do we train ourselves to embrace risk without fear? Part 5. A Navy SEAL is dropped into hostile territory. The mission is clear, but danger lurks at every corner. One wrong move could cost lives, yet he remains calm. Not because he lacks fear, but because he's trained his mind to stay sharp under extreme pressure. Dr. Richard Harris reveals that elite performers, whether in the military, medicine, or business, use mental conditioning to handle risk with precision. They don't just react, they train their brains to stay focused, even when chaos surrounds them. The mental tools of elite risk takers: visualization, seeing success before it happens. Before stepping into a high-risk situation, top performers mentally rehearse every move. Astronauts visualize complex space maneuvers. Surgeons imagine each step of a difficult operation. This process trains the brain to stay confident when it's time to act. Breath control, calming the mind under stress. Fear triggers a racing heart, shaky hands, and clouded thinking. But controlled breathing can reset the nervous system. Special forces use the 4x4 breathing method. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, repeat. This simple trick keeps their minds sharp in high-pressure moments. Micro decisions, breaking down big risks. Instead of focusing on the overwhelming challenge ahead, elite risk takers break it into small, manageable steps. A mountain climber doesn't think about the entire peak. He focuses on the next grip, the next step, the next breath. By taking risks in small, calculated moves, they stay in control. Why fear never truly goes away. And why that's a good thing. Here's something most people don't realize. Fear is normal, even for the best risk takers. The difference is they don't let it freeze them. They acknowledge it, use it as fuel, and move forward anyway. Harris argues that the key to mastering risk isn't eliminating fear, it's learning to act despite it. And the more you step outside your comfort zone, the stronger your risk-taking muscles become. But what happens when risk goes wrong? How do top performers handle failure and turn setbacks into future success? Part 6. A young scientist spends years developing a groundbreaking medical treatment. The trials begin and fail. Investors pull out. The media calls it a disaster. Most people would give up. But instead, she studies what went wrong, adjusts her approach, and tries again. A few years later, her research saves thousands of lives. This is the difference between those who let failure define them and those who use it as a stepping stone to success. Dr. Richard Harris emphasizes that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every great risk taker has faced setbacks, but what separates them is how they respond. The resilience formula, how the best risk takers bounce back, reframe failure. It's data, not defeat. When something goes wrong, most people take it personally, but elite risk takers see failure as feedback. Instead of thinking, I failed, they ask, what can I learn from this? The 24-hour rule, feel it, then move on. Disappointment is normal. Even world-class athletes and CEOs feel frustration after a loss. But they don't stay stuck. Many follow the 24-hour rule. Allow yourself one day to process emotions, then shift focus to the next step. Micro wins, regaining confidence. Step by step. After a setback, diving straight into another big risk can feel overwhelming. Instead, successful people rebuild momentum with small wins. A pilot recovering from a crash won't immediately fly a high-stakes mission. He'll start with simulator training, then short flights, then bigger challenges. The secret to long-term risk success. Harris shares a powerful truth. The people who succeed in high-risk environments aren't necessarily the smartest or the bravest. They're the ones who refuse to quit. Risk isn't about getting it right every time. It's about adapting, learning, and trying again. But not all risks are worth taking. So how do you know when to push forward and when to walk away? Part 7. A professional poker player sits at a high-stakes table. The pot is massive. The tension is thick. One move could win him millions or wipe him out. He doesn't rely on luck. Instead, he calculates every possible outcome, assessing the risk versus the reward. Finally, he pushes his chips forward, fully aware of what's at stake. This moment isn't just about gambling, it's about strategic decision-making under uncertainty. Dr. Richard Harris reveals that top risk takers don't just act on impulse. They use a framework to analyze risks logically, even when emotions run high. The risk assessment formula. Is it worth it? Before taking a major risk, elite performers ask themselves 3 key questions. What's the worst-case scenario? Smart risk takers don't ignore potential failure. Instead, they visualize the absolute worst outcome. Can they survive it? If yes, they move forward. If no, they adjust their approach. What's the potential reward? Every risk must have a clear upside. Whether it's a career move, a financial investment, or a life decision, successful people only take risks where the possible reward outweighs the potential loss. What are the probabilities? Elite risk takers think in probabilities, not absolutes. A mountaineer won't climb in dangerous weather if the survival odds are too low. A CEO won't invest in a failing project unless there's a realistic path to success. They weigh the numbers, then act accordingly. Why overconfidence is the silent risk killer. Harris warns that many failures happen because of blind optimism. People assume things will work out without preparing for setbacks. The best risk takers balance confidence with caution. They believe in their decisions but always have a backup plan. This mindset separates reckless gamblers from strategic winners. But what happens when risks involve not just data, but emotions, gut feelings, and human intuition? Part 8. A firefighter rushes into a burning building. Smoke fills the air, flames rage around him. Suddenly, without thinking, he turns and sprints out, just seconds before the floor collapses. Later, when asked how he knew, he can't explain it. He just felt something was wrong. This isn't magic, it's intuition, your brain's hidden risk detector. Dr. Richard Harris explains that while logic and data are critical in risk-taking, gut feelings play a powerful role too. But how do you know when to trust your instincts and when they might lead you astray? The science behind gut instincts and Risk Your Brain is a pattern recognition machine. Every experience, every decision, every moment of danger is stored away, often without you realizing it. When a situation feels familiar, your subconscious pulls from past experiences faster than your conscious mind can process. This is why experienced professionals, firefighters, doctors, soldiers, sometimes make split-second decisions that save lives. Their brains aren't guessing. They're drawing from years of unseen knowledge. When to trust your gut and when to ignore it. Trust it when you have experience. If you've been in a field for years, your instincts are likely based on real patterns. A veteran investor sensing a market crash, or a surgeon knowing something feels off during an operation, these instincts are shaped by expertise. Be cautious when you're in unfamiliar territory. Your gut is only as good as the data it has. If you're facing a completely new type of risk, starting a business, moving to a new country, making a major financial decision, your instincts might be based on fear rather than real insight. That's when logic and research matter more. Watch out for emotional bias. Your gut can be tricked by emotions, especially fear, excitement, and overconfidence. That's why gamblers chase losses, people jump into bad relationships, and entrepreneurs ignore red flags. The best risk takers learn to separate true intuition from emotional impulse. The balance between logic and instinct. Harris argues that the best decision makers combine both worlds. They use logic to analyze risks, but also listen to their instincts when experience tells them something isn't right. But what happens when multiple people are involved in a high-risk decision? What if one person's gut feeling contradicts another's logic? Part 9. The danger of groupthink in risk-taking. Imagine a group of executives in a boardroom deciding whether to launch a new product. One junior analyst notices a flaw, something that could lead to disaster. But as he looks around, he sees everyone nodding in agreement. No one questions the decision. He stays silent. Months later, the product fails spectacularly. This is the power and the danger of groupthink. Dr. Richard Harris explains that when people make decisions in groups, they often feel pressured to conform. The desire for harmony can override critical thinking. This is especially dangerous in high-risk situations. Why groups often make bad risk decisions. The illusion of consensus. If no one speaks up, people assume everyone agrees, even if doubts exist. This leads to a false sense of confidence. Overconfidence from collective thinking groups often take bigger risks than individuals because responsibility feels shared. If a decision fails, no single person feels fully accountable. The influence of authority. When a leader strongly supports a decision, others may hesitate to challenge them. This can lead to blindly following a flawed strategy. How to avoid groupthink in high-stakes risks. Encourage dissent. The best teams invite disagreement. A strong leader isn't the one with all the answers, but the one who ensures all perspectives are heard. Assign a devil's advocate. Reading. Some of the most successful companies force someone to argue against every major decision. This prevents overconfidence. Use data, not just opinions. Relying on evidence instead of gut feelings helps teams make objective risk assessments. But even with strong decision-making, some risks will still fail, and when that happens, the ability to adapt is everything. Part 10. Adaptability. The key to long-term risk success. A champion boxer steps into the ring. In the first round, his strategy fails. His opponent moves faster, dodges every punch. If he sticks to his original plan, he'll lose. But instead of panicking, he adjusts. He changes his stance, his timing, his approach, and by the final round, he wins. This is the secret of great risk takers. They don't just take risks, they adapt when things go wrong. Why adaptability is the most underrated risk skill. Dr. Harris explains that no risk goes exactly as planned. The best risk takers expect the unexpected. They assume things will change and stay mentally flexible. Avoid stubborn thinking. Instead of forcing a failing strategy, they adjust quickly. Learn from setbacks. Every failure provides new information for future risks. The pivot principle in risk-taking. Successful entrepreneurs, athletes, and leaders all use the pivot principle. If a risk works, double down. If it fails, adjust and try again. If it's a dead end, move on to a better opportunity. This mindset ensures that risks aren't just taken, but managed intelligently. Part 11. The final risk, knowing when to walk away. Not every risk should be pursued forever. Some risks aren't worth it. Harris shares the story of a stock trader who refuses to sell a crashing investment. He keeps thinking, it'll turn around soon, but it doesn't. He loses everything. His mistake? He didn't know when to quit, how to know when to stop taking a risk. The sunk cost trap. The more time, money, or energy we invest in something, the harder it is to let go, even when the signs are clear. Smart risk takers cut losses before it's too late. The opportunity cost test. Every risk requires resources. If one risk is draining energy without results, it's taking away from better opportunities. The is it still worth it rule. Periodically ask, if I were starting today knowing what I know now, would I still take this risk? If the answer is no, it's time to move on. Great risk takers aren't just those who know how to win. They're also the ones who know when to walk away. Part 12. The psychology of the world's greatest risk takers. A firefighter races into a burning building. Smoke blinds him, flames roar around him. He has seconds to decide, left or right. His choice will mean life or death. But in that split second, his instincts take over and he makes the right call. What separates elite risk takers from the rest? Their mindset. Dr. Richard Harris studied professionals in high-risk environments, firefighters, special forces, astronauts, and found they all share 3 psychological traits. 1. Controlled fear. They feel fear but don't let it control them. Instead of panicking, they acknowledge fear and use it as fuel. They don't try to be fearless. They try to be fear-smart. 2. Mental pre-play. They live risks before they happen. Great risk takers visualize challenges before they face them. This tricks the brain into feeling prepared, reducing hesitation. 3rd, speed versus precision. Knowing when to act fast and when to wait. In high-stakes risks, waiting too long can be as dangerous as acting too soon. They learn to balance quick decision-making with strategic patience. The key takeaway? Risk-taking isn't about being reckless. It's about training your brain to make fast, smart choices under pressure. Part 13. The risk formula. How to take bold but smart risks. Imagine 2 people standing at the edge of a cliff. One jumps without thinking. The other calculates the height, checks the landing, and only then leaps. That's the difference between reckless and calculated risk. Dr. Harris distills all his research into a simple formula for smart risk-taking. The risk formula. Risk equals opportunity times. Preparation minus fear. Opportunity. Is this risk worth it? Does it align with your goals? Preparation. Have you done everything to increase your chances of success? Fear. If fear is high but opportunity and preparation are low, it's not a smart risk. How to apply this formula in life and business. Before making a big move, ask yourself, am I prepared? Is this worth the risk? If fear is stopping you but opportunity is huge, work on reducing the fear through knowledge and experience. If preparation is weak, pause and plan before diving in. The greatest risk takers don't just gamble, they take the right risks at the right time. Part 14. The final lesson. Why risk is the key to a fulfilling life. Dr. Harris ends with a powerful message. The greatest risk is not taking one at all. Every major breakthrough, every life-changing decision, every success story, they all start with a risk. The 3 golden rules of risk-taking for a meaningful life. Risk what matters, but never more than you can afford to lose. Smart risk-takers protect their foundation. They take big leaps, but never risk everything at once. Fail fast, learn faster. Every failure is a lesson. The quicker you learn, the better you become at taking risks. Risk is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Confidence in risk-taking is built over time. The more small risks you take, the easier big risks become. Dr. Harris reminds us that life itself is a risk. The biggest regrets don't come from risks taken, but from risks avoided. So the question isn't, should I take risks? The question is, which risks are worth taking? That's the end of The Art of Risk, a deep dive into how risk works, why it's essential, and how to master it. This book isn't just about extreme adventures or high-stakes gambles. It's about using risk to create the life you want. If you take one thing from this book, let it be this. Risk isn't something to fear. It's something to master.